Welcome to the futuristic year 4386. What a modern and not at all outdated time period. One day the peace was disrupted by a baby demon prince toad arriving to violently destroy the city of Songhai. To stop him, they sent the magical squadron, but none could match the tiny terror toad. In the battle, Sirius Black of the 7-Star Squadron saw a kid calmly eating noodles amidst the chaos. He yelled at the boy to flee, but the child ignored him. So Sirius Black heroically risked his life to put the brat in perilous safety, then told him to run towards danger and find his parents. He returned to battle the toad and supposedly defeated it, saving the country through his kindness and stupidity. Many schools dishonored him with statues, except School 60. On his first day there, friendly bullies demanded money from Harry, shocked he got in with such low entrance exam scores. Before Harry could respond, the bullies were beaten up by Hermione, the daughter of a millionaire and the prettiest, strongest first year. The bullies didn't dare challenge her. Hermione tried to impress Harry, but he paid her for her help and ditched her, leaving the girl shocked. On the first day, the school conducted an impossible spiritual power test to unfairly assign classes. Lower scores went to the elite class because that makes total sense. Students had to aggressively cuddle the giant demon toad that destroyed the world 10 years ago. The real toad was sealed under the campus. This was just a fake. But it was still hard. If their power sent them flying off the platform, they'd be put in the losers class. The first students took the exam and failed so miserably, it nearly killed the poor evaluating teacher. He was ready to resign when Oliver Wood strolled in and became the first and only student ever to qualify for the elite class. Next was Neville. The students did a little better this time, mildly disappointing instead of making the teacher fly. Little did the school know, the sealed demon toad had been secretly absorbing extra power over the last 10 years, weakening his seal. He just needed a teensy bit more magic to break free. When haughty Hermione walked in, the toad perked up, sensing her spiritual power. Hermione did all right, strong enough to wiggle the toad and earn the title of prom queen. Next was Harry, and the toad was not thrilled. He reminded him of that little punk 10 years ago who nearly obliterated him for interrupting his noodle time. The toad was certain this was the same all-powerful kid. Harry tried to hold back, but couldn't totally contain his power. His strike practically atomized the toad, who used his last bit of strength to morph into a body and play dead before escaping. Harry got the highest elite score imaginable, but inside he was annoyed that the stupid toad made him reveal his strength before he got to eat his beloved noodles. Someday he would hunt down that toad and finish him off for good. Then the world would tremble before his noodly might. But for now, Harry would pretend to be a normal kid. And if anyone tried taking his noodles again, let's just say things might get apocalyptic up in here. The students stampeded out of the exam hall like a herd of wildebeests fleeing from a lion. They scurried to their classes, eager to do some actual magic instead of just writing about it. The elite class had the misfortune of having Willow as their teacher. Oliver enthusiastically whipped out his wand and shrieked, "Accio staff!" All he managed to summon was an old mop that whacked him in the face. Neville frantically waved his wand, shouting, "Appareo skirt!" but only managed to magic up a lacy pink tutu that gave everyone a good laugh. Hermione was the star pupil, conjuring up an impressive skeleton beast. Well, it was just bones, but still leagues ahead of her classmates' pathetic attempts. While the others were engrossed in their incantations, Harry tried to shrink into the background. He was terrified of accidentally summoning a monster that would go on a rampage and destroy the city. Willow forced him to try the spell, ignoring the poor boy's protests. To everyone's shock, Harry somehow managed to summon the dreaded demon toad of the apocalypse. Before it could wreak havoc, Willow calmly turned it into a cute little pug puppy, which the delighted students adopted as their new mascot. We then see a flashback to Harry's totally mundane birth. When he was born, black smoke filled the delivery room, and baby Harry crawled out on his own, already a fully grown adult who could speak. His dad took one look and fainted in shock. From birth, Harry could hear thoughts across the world. By age 2, he knew he had to conceal his unlimited power and pretend to be normal. But at 6, an accident revealed his true divine form to his parents. After a family vote, they decided to keep living a humble life. His dad made a talisman to seal Harry's powers and gave him special pills to dampen his omnipotence. Harry now tries hard to avoid using his limitless abilities. At school, elections began for class president. Harry didn't care until he found out Hermione was bribing votes with free-fried noodles. This clever girl had put her peers under a loyalty spell with the noodles and an incantation. After achieving her benevolent goal, she went looking for Harry, but he had already fled. As payment for the noodles, he had left her one of his power-dampening talismans. Back in class, the teacher pretended to catch Hermione's trickery and lectured about seduction spells. Hermione played along, acting shocked at being found out. Harry also pretended he knew what was going on. But inside, he chuckled at their foolishness, for he could see the truth with his all-knowing mind. Harry signaled to Hermione that her noodles were tasty, but she thought he wanted her to take a power pill to boost her magic and help her win. Whoops! The pill backfired and drained her powers instead. Suddenly, everyone was free from Hermione's spell. The professor called her up for flopping the magic demo. She tripped, but Harry caught her. Then the teacher wanted Harry to demonstrate a seduction spell on Hermione. Little did they know Harry's magic was so strong, he had accidentally cast the spell on the whole school. He was so irresistible, Hermione was head over heels. When Harry broke his own spell, another dude became president instead of Hermione. The principal found out about Harry's powerful trickery. When Hermione got all hard-eyed for Harry, he realized she was still under his spell from the day before. Whoops again. He broke that one too. Anyway, the first years had a potions class. Some kids brought fancy electric furnaces, others had old family cauldrons, but only Harry brought a microwave. After the teacher showed them how to brew power pills, most got it right. Except Oliver. His furnace exploded right in his face. As they left, that sneaky green toad came out to eat Neville's furnace and recharge. But Harry caught the little thief red-handed. The toad escaped out the window with the furnace, but Harry chased him down. Busted again. Meanwhile, Oliver kept running laps, remembering his dad's threat to beat him if he failed to refine those pills, especially since the family heirloom cauldron exploded. After tiring himself out, an inner demon possessed Oliver. Probably his secret crush on Hermione and jealousy over Harry. He automatically saw Harry as his enemy. After catching the dog, Harry washed its drool off the stolen furnace. Neville showed up and assumed Harry sabotaged him. Harry explained it was the thieving toad, but Neville didn't believe it. He whipped out a poison dart he'd refined himself and aimed it at Harry. Just then, Demon Oliver arrived, seeking vengeance on Harry. Harry dodged, and the dart landed right in Oliver's mouth instead. Harry wasn't worried since he could heal Oliver. Neville forced him to take the boy to the lab and said if Harry could refine the antidote, he'd forgive the theft. Figuring Oliver wouldn't die too soon, Harry played along. After putting the pill in the furnace, Neville realized the others would be back before it was done. Just then, the sneaky dog tried to eat the furnace again. They stopped it just in time. Then they discovered the toad dog could fast forward time. They used its powers to speed up the pill and test it on the dog safely. It worked. They gave the antidote to Oliver right before the others returned. While Harry cleaned up, Neville blocked the door. But the students barged in anyway. Harry had already snuck Oliver out. The teacher checked his pill. Success. Oliver thought Harry had given him the life-saving pill. So now Harry was his BFF. But really, Neville's pill was in the furnace all along. Harry just forced the toad to fix Oliver's cauldron. What a hero. The next day, Hermione was determined to get close to Harry. After class, she marched up and asked him out. Poor Harry was so shocked he couldn't respond. While Hermione only had eyes for Harry, a pair of snipers on a nearby roof targeted her. Thanks to Harry's gaze, one lost his chance to shoot. Just in time, Harry got called to the principal's office. He jumped at the opportunity to escape Hermione's advances, though she followed him out. The assassins lost their mark and left to look for another opening. If only they knew the dog had been spying the whole time. Hermione was glued to Harry's side all the way to the principal's office, convinced he'd agreed to date her. This news was shared by all the students at school until it reached the hands of the person hired to assassinate Hermione, who decided to wait for his moment. In the office, the principal asked if Harry was the rad kid who wiped the floor with that giant toad. Though everyone kissed up and claimed Harry did it, the principal wasn't buying it. He'd been desperately searching for the true beast slayer to make them his master. Harry wanted zero to do with this crazed fanboy, so he wiped the fight from the principal's memory banks. The next morning, Hermione was camped outside Harry's house for their date, shaking with excitement. Though Harry wanted to run for the hills, his parents shoved him out the door, especially after Hermione sucked up and gifted his mom some youth pills to get in good with the in-laws. His only hope was the assassins would crash the date, but they held off. They took him out of the house to attend his date. His last chance to escape was if the assassins the Toad spoke of showed up, but they decided to attack later, so Harry had no choice but to continue with the girl. Hermione dragged him to her family's off-the-chain amusement park. She ditched the bodyguards for alone time, though a couple cronies still secretly followed to protect her. Meanwhile, the assassins infiltrated the park, icing guards left and right but unable to rain on the lovebirds' parade. Harry kept mind-wiping Hermione after each brutal brawl. Finally, they got on the Ferris wheel, Hermione picturing a romantic smooch at the top. Harry just wanted a break from the attacks, but at the peak, assassins struck. Hermione begged them to take her, but spare her lover. They agreed to snuff only the target. Moved by her sacrifice, Harry chucked them out, and for once didn't Men in Black memory wipe Hermione. After the failed hit, top assassin Lou issued a death warrant for Hermione. No one survived once targeted. They had a 100% success rate. Lou was watching Hermione's every move, determined to finish this job. At school, the teacher told Hermione that Lou's assassins were still hunting her, so they'd provide special protection. Hermione, keeping her promise to Harry, claimed she never saw any killers. The principal approached to explain he already took care of the baddies himself. But really, after the Ferris wheel, Harry Jedi mind-tricked the principal into believing that. The principal also said they were going into lockdown mode since Lou wanted Hermione dead. There'd be an armed battalion around the school, security guards outside, and Hermione's bodyguards inside. The kids would shelter in the teacher's office with an activated force field, but with all the manpower, they insisted Hermione was totally safe from any attacks. Harry just rolled his eyes knowing he could handle Liu's goons in his sleep. The students were chilling, completely unaware of the doom headed their way. One assassin was caught outside, another fought the professor, just distractions. The real threat was Shu, invisible and gathering strength in his big scary hammer. He planned to smash through the force shield where Hermione was. Meanwhile, Harry had won free noodles to be delivered in 15 minutes. He could stop complaining and wait patiently with the others. When the delivery alert came, Harry left to get his noodles. Accidentally, he slammed the door on the assassin fighting the professor. Assassin number 2 was out. Number 1 bit the dust thanks to the dog who absorbed his energy and suddenly aged. Only Shu was left. His brilliant plan would have worked if Harry hadn't seen through his invisibility while getting his noodles. Though surprised a high schooler beat his awesome technique, Shu attacked. But it was like an egg hitting a rock. The only one hurt was Shu. Right then, the principal arrived. But Harry used his forgetfulness technique again to make the principal believe that he had defeated the assassin. Harry himself pretended to be hurt. Since everyone thought Harry was a wimp, they bought his lie. From that day on, our protagonist was recovering at home. Hermione, who was super worried when she found Harry injured, called the best doctors. She even built a healing cabin in Harry's house. Obviously, Harry didn't need any of this. But 10 days later, he was still pretending to be sick. That day, his friends, along with Tadpole, as they called the dog, came to visit. Hermione, who planned to use this visit to suck up to Harry's future mother-in-law, gave Harry's mom new rejuvenating elixirs. She also gave her body-nourishing pills and an injection with chicken blood. Hermione planned to use these on Harry to accelerate his recovery. Of course, the chicken blood would probably just give Harry salmonella, but Hermione was desperate to impress the in-laws. The lady was very happy with all these gifts, so after telling her son to treat the girl well, she left the room. Hermione wasn't going to wait any longer to inject Harry, but he also wouldn't let himself be given chicken blood, so miraculously he left the cabin, telling his friends he was much better and would return to school in 2 days. Then, to change the subject, he picked up a bracelet sent by the principal for an annual spiritual power test, which is measured for all high school students. His friends had been waiting for him to take the test together. When they began, Oliver explained that this test was different from the previous one. In this one, they have to project energy outside their bodies, something they all have to learn to do. At that moment, students across the country were taking the same test, including students from High School 59, with Liam as student council president, not only the best in the school, but in the whole country. But his smile faded when Hermione came in second place. On Harry's turn, he couldn't control his strength, creating a spiritual energy sphere larger than Earth, so he had to send it into space. The bracelet couldn't record all the spiritual energy, leaving him in first place, but with a null score, although his enemies thought it was a system error. Harry knew it was very dangerous to stay in the number 1 spot, so upon hearing Neville say he would hack the system to change his grade, he decided to join him, but they weren't the only ones in the system. Liam, along with the student council secretary, were unwilling to accept being surpassed by High School 60 and wanted to verify if Harry's score was due to a system failure. Before they could do anything, the system was alerted to Neville's movements, so they had to leave. But before doing so, Neville changed Liam's name to Crazy Bird, which made them look forward to facing these High School 60 students in the next sword competition, and it came true since High School 60 had 2 students on the top 10 list, raising their score. So they would have to compete with High School 59, which was a misfortune since every time they had competed against them, they had lost, with the only exception being the year the Harry's principal participated, when they managed a tie. This is because High School 59 subjects its students to rigorous training before the competition and had the necessary facilities for practice. On the other hand, after careful consideration, the teachers from High School 60 chose the students who would participate in the competition, all freshmen: Harry, Hermione, Oliver, Neville, and Tadpole. After having Tadpole take the spiritual energy test, in which he came in second place on the list by the way, they registered him for the competition. That night, the professor contacted them to inform them that they had been chosen by the school to participate in the sword tournament the next day. Therefore, in less than 3 days they had to get a spiritual sword. Fortunately, all 5 of them had one. Among them, the only ones who had managed to develop the sword spirit were Hermione and Harry, although the latter decided to keep it secret. The professor told them they had to be patient to form the sword spirit. At first, the spirit's body will be in a state of chaos. With effort, it will develop and be able to concentrate in a solid body. The initial spirit can take the form of an animal or a human. This will improve and evolve. It will also develop intelligence, but they will learn that next semester. Leaving that aside, High School 59 was also making preparations. Liam informed the principal that the contestants' swords had been sent to be strengthened. Also, with the 5th member they had recruited, they wouldn't leave any chance for their rivals to win. As for our protagonist, none of his companions realized that he didn't want to participate in the competition. Harry believed that if he showed his real power, it would unleash great destruction not only in the competition, but throughout the world. But since his friends and teachers took this competition very seriously, he had no choice but to give in. After long consideration, he decided to show the others his powerful sword. To find it, he went downstairs to ask his parents who were watching the news, but so as not to interrupt them, he waited for them to finish. Then he saw on the news that the Cultivation Council had surrounded the headquarters of the Shadow faction. This was the first time they had managed to find their lair. After arresting the members of the organization guarding the entrance, Harry's principal appeared to check the upper floors and apprehend the leader. When the broadcast ended, Harry finally got the sword's location, but upon releasing it again caused the talisman restricting its power to weaken, but he wouldn't realize this until later. The next day, the group attended High School 59 to become familiar with the terrain, as this would be the venue where their competition would take place. The group would stay a total of 5 days, so the professor was surprised that Harry wouldn't bring any luggage, but what they didn't know was that our protagonist didn't plan on participating in the competition. His plan was to fake a stomachache and faint when they arrived at High School 59. That way he would be freed from the competition. After kicking out the brats, the principal fell into the trap set by the Shadow Boss lady. The crafty gal had placed a decoy of herself with a bomb inside to take him out. Meanwhile, Harry was trying to control Jin, the kooky spirit of his sword, bribing him with fried noodles to make himself scarce. Upon arriving at Institute 59, Z and her gang welcomed the little group. That's how we found out Z and Harry's teacher were sworn enemies. Harry didn't get a chance to fake a stomachache, though he didn't need to since Z cast a spell that pierced him to test him out. Jin told him his amulet was cracking, releasing a huge burst of energy. Harry needed a golden pill before the amulet stopped working and destroyed the world. Harry played dead and everyone bought it. On the other hand, Lu's plan had gone belly up again, so seeing how worried her target was about Harry, she decided to use him to get to her. They took Harry to the infirmary, and Hermione wanted to follow, but Liam stopped her. The girl didn't want to waste time with that idiot, and when she tried to hit him to get him out of the way, she nearly caused a fight between schools. Liam told her not to worry about her friend, that he'd be safer at 59 than at home. The problem was that suddenly Harry's stretcher caught on fire. Although it didn't affect him, no one knew what would happen to the boy after that. Just when things were about to get ugly between factions, the teacher calmed them down, preventing them from duking it out. In the end, they took Harry to the infirmary. Upon unwrapping the bandages they had wrapped him in, they saw the kid had disappeared. Despite not being affected by the attack, Harry was not well, because by using his spiritual powers to escape, he had further weakened the amulet. If he kept drawing on his spiritual strength, it would explode and bye-bye world. To prevent the amulet from blowing up, Harry called his old man and explained the situation. The guy came racing over with a new amulet. As if nothing had happened, Z continued giving them a tour of the training grounds. He explained the competition was 5 against 5. In the area, there were 5 altars: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. They had to stick their swords in the altars to score points. The more altars they dominated, the more points they got. The first to 100 points won. Having explained that, Liam told them that if they didn't have all 5 members, they automatically lost. But when he saw the girls from 59 were also missing a member, to everyone's surprise, the last one appeared. It was Feng, the lunatic who had openly harassed Hermione in front of everyone. And since Oliver had defended her, the guy had smashed his face in. As a user of negative energy, Feng could do annihilation, concentrating spiritual energy to destroy anything he touched. That's what he did to Oliver's hand. Good thing Harry arrived and regenerated his hand with a breathing technique. But he used his energy again, so the seal was about to blow. Harry avoided fighting Feng, even when he beat him up. After the kids went about their business, Harry slipped away to wait for his old man. Looking for the exit, he ran into Lu, who had gone into the shadows and was beating the crap out of Feng. It was the perfect chance for Lu to nab the boy. She tied them up with immortal ropes and took them to her boss to monitor them and implement her plan. Lu used a transformation technique to look like Feng and then told the others she had kidnapped Harry. After that, Harry's principal arrived and guessed it was Lu's doing. Thanks to investigating, they found the building where Liu had taken Harry. They proposed sending in the squad of 7 shadows, while Hermione's bodyguards planned to hide her upon finding out the shadows were involved. But the girl convinced them, saying her family had never been cowards and that as a representative she could not chicken out. Her conviction surprised the man who had seen her grow up. Afterwards, they organized a plan and went to rescue Harry. The kid was super chill because he had easily escaped the competition. Not like Feng, who had been annoying the old man with his bullshit for a while, so he sent him to sleep. When he felt people approaching, the old man went on alert. Even though he was past his prime, his strength should not be underestimated. He alone took out a bunch of Hermione's guards with just seeds and fought the girl with no problem. In the end, Harry dealt with the old fart and decided to hide Feng to cancel the competition. But to his surprise, there was another Feng, who they had convinced to help 59 win. So after the ceremony, the competition began. The groups were teleported to different areas of the field. Just then, Harry's dad arrived but couldn't give him the amulet. These not only contained his strength but left Harry mute and emotionless. Following the competition, Liam's group manipulated the teleportation to arrive at the stone altar. Then he located the rest. Oliver at the metal one, Hermione at the water one, at the fire, one near him, and Feng was also there. Neville had been teleported to the same altar as Liam, barely escaping. Then School 59 lit up the first altar. Neville followed a member of the other team who was going for Harry. At the same time, the others from 59 went for the remaining altars. This girl took charge of seizing the metal altar and banging Oliver. To do so, she created a web-like net. After catching her prey, she invades the nervous system to control it. Thus, she easily tamed Oliver and lit up altar number 2. Tadpole faced off against Fung, and after some punches, he ran off from there. After lighting the third altar, Fung spoke with Liam, and he told him to go to the water one to find what he was needing. Hermione was about to win the altar when Liam ambushed her. After a battle in which not only the altar but also who had more power was at stake, Fung appeared. Hermione knew she couldn't take on both, but she also had no chance of escaping because Liam had frozen the lake, her escape route. But right then, the ice shattered, giving Hermione a way out. Liam lit up altar number 4. Altar number 5, where Harry was, which everyone thought would be the easiest, was won by the boy, though he had no intention of doing so. Neville had arrived to help him against the ghost guy. Since Neville transformed insults into weapons, his words were aimed at the dude. This really pissed off Harry. The seal was about to blow, but Tadpole bit him to absorb the overflowing energy and they fused. Now Harry could use his spiritual power smoothly. After barely shoving the guy, he went flying, and they won the wood altar. Liam panicked and devised a new plan. With one less member, Liam knew they were at a disadvantage. He knew Harry's next target would be the water altar, but he couldn't call his whole team because they would lose more than they would gain. He wasn't going to let them take the altars either, so he planned to avoid Harry and keep his group in constant motion. They were 4 strong and could beat the other team as they already had, but Harry was the only boss and was alone, so while he went for one altar, they would move to retake the ones he had won and thus always have 4-1. After seizing the metal one, Harry realized Liam's plan and knew that if they kept at it, they were bound to lose. The only thing he could think of was to be faster and win them all before the others arrived. His idea was interrupted by Hermione. She told them the girl with Liam had the ability to locate and could know where each one was except Harry. And since they were determined not to fight Harry, if the boy grabbed an altar with metal, they would already have 2. They would leave Oliver guarding that one. Harry would go for Earth, which had the strongest, while Neville distracted Fang and Tadpole the other one. That way they would outnumber them and win. Hermione and Neville would go for the fire altar. Upon learning of their enemy's objective, Liam informed his teammates to stay on guard, and he wouldn't let them take the altar, but being 2 against 1, the chances of losing were greater. Meanwhile, Hermione focused on obtaining the altar. Right then, we see a flashback of Hermione's childhood. Since she was little, she was instilled by her father to defend the family's dignity. This led her to have an extreme rivalry with Liam and constant competition to see who was the best between the two. A war that has gone on a long time without a winner. Returning to the game, when Hermione was about to take the altar, due to an accident, the blow Neville meant for Liam went toward the girl. This made them lose the chance to win the altar. The group had to change strategies. Neville had told the girl that his sword was very difficult to summon, since he would have to sacrifice a sword spirit. By doing so, the Fang sword would release a phoenix fire spirit within the sword, and Hermione was willing to do it if it ensured defeating the guys. And they did it. They took the fire altar from them. On the other hand, Fung had moved the metal altar which was being guarded by Oliver. Although his strength was inferior, he gave his all to prevent his opponent from sticking his sword in the altar. Harry's school principal, who was watching their fight, realized Fung seemed to have more strength than he was showing. But they kept calm, since this place had a set of protective seals that guaranteed their safety. So they let the fight between them continue, and Fung beat Oliver like an old rug. But despite Oliver no longer having the strength to move, his unwillingness to give up made the boy's spiritual strength increase, allowing Oliver to maintain the altar. Just then, everyone received the announcement that Harry had successfully taken the wood altar. And when everyone was celebrating, Liu got tired of playing along with these kids and shed her Fang disguise. And when they went looking for him, they found him hurt and unconscious. On the other hand, Harry headed to the last altar, the stone one, to complete all 5. Although they were close to victory, his father grew more and more anxious. Since Harry had gotten used to keeping his emotions under control from a young age, not showing importance to either successes or failures, keeping others at a distance. For him, everything had always depended on maintaining a low measure of his emotions, and he had lived that way his whole life. Until a small ray of light managed to filter into his heart without him realizing, and it had been growing thanks to his daily coexistence with Hermione and his friends. But this was about to make him lose control, thinking victory was almost in hand and how happy his team would be. This unfamiliar feeling grew, making him unable to control his power. But the moment Harry was about to give up for safety, Hermione took his hand so he wouldn't let go of the sword. This not only calmed his emotions, but allowed the School 60 team to win the competition. There was happiness all around among the teachers watching the kids until they switched to the metal altar and found Oliver unconscious. Worst of all was that at this moment, everyone lowered their guard, including Harry, who didn't realize Liu had approached them at some point. When he turned to look at his friend, he saw the girl about to hit Hermione, but it all happened so fast that Harry could only watch as the girl was murdered and her soul left her body to then embrace him one last time. This caused Harry to completely lose control and unleash his power. The frog stopped time, but not even this managed to control the boy. The first thing he did was beat Liu to a pulp until the memory of Hermione brought him back to calm. Immediately, Harry went to Hermione to try to revive her, but no matter what he did, nothing worked. The frog told him it was because her soul had been ripped out, meaning it was impossible to save her. The only reason her body was still alive was because he had stopped time. Once time continued, Hermione's body would die. The frog proposed stopping time forever and thus preserving the little life the girl had left, but Harry refused. He wasn't going to give up on the girl. So he decided to restart the world, to return it to its original state. But to rewind, time required a huge amount of spiritual energy, so Harry used the ball of energy he had sent into space. The frog told him to stop altering the timeline since it contradicted the natural order of things, but Harry didn't care. To keep controlling his energy and prevent it from destroying everyone, Toadlet and Harry fused again, beginning the rewinding of time. Harry returned to the first day of high school, but this time when he was intimidated, it was his friends who defended him. Hermione was nowhere to be found, but even though Harry had no memory of what had happened, he knew something important was missing. Someone who had always been there was gone, and although he had no idea who it was, Harry was always looking for her. In this life that should have been happy, something essential was lacking. Notably, this life was perfect. Harry was living it in a different world, one created using the frog's time technique and Harry's space technique combined, adding a huge amount of spiritual energy, resulting in a completely new world. And at this moment, the new world was absorbing the entire old world, which would cause its destruction. Also, since time had stopped, no one in the old world could interfere to change what was happening. We radically switch planes and head to the underworld. When the Queen found out Hermione's identity, she was sent back to the world of the living. Before Harry destroyed the three worlds, after waking up from among the dead, Hermione asked Jin, who had stayed guarding her body, what was happening. And after the initial shock, the spirit showed the girl everything that had happened and explained that Harry was trying to revive him at that point. Jin told her that by then, his master had lost control. If they didn't wake him up, his world would disappear. To wake him up, the spirit told her she could use him as a weapon to destroy the new world. Hermione immediately agreed. After turning Jin into a sword, the girl used all her strength to reach Harry. After catching up to him, Hermione stabbed him with the sword, destroying the new world and making Harry regain his memories of her and freeing him from the control of his power. After Harry woke up, he couldn't repair the original world. The only way to return to normal was to use the worlds they had created, one by Harry and the frog, and the other by Hermione when she used Jin, a dimensional spiritual treasure, to awaken Harry. The kids were happy because they would save the world, but the frog told them that by doing so, they would go back in time, and Hermione wouldn't remember anything they had gone through. She accepted it because for her, saving the world was more important. Plus, the The girl was sure that what she felt for Harry wouldn't disappear, so she would naturally return to his side. Her words gave the boy confidence, so he turned back time. After this, the world went back to Oliver's battle with Lou, and as Harry had planned, he dealt with her once she shed the Fung disguise. With this done, everything went smoothly. They won the competition, and best of all, Hermione kept her life, and Harry's powers didn't spiral out of control. Although this turned out well, Harry would have to pay the consequences of messing with time. Once his father put on the new talisman, the emotions Harry had in that moment would once again be sealed, and his relationship with Hermione erased. Still, Harry accepted his decision. What he desired most was world peace.